What you're looking at here are pictures from last summer in Ottawa. Some 600 passengers stuck on the tarmac on their Air Transat planes for up to 6 hours. It was a glaring example for Canadians about what needs to be changed with airline travel in this country. Ottawa highlighted this case as it introduced the Transportation Modernization Act, designed to protect passengers' rights. A Bill of Rights being debated now, making its way through the legislature, and now the subject of Senate committee hearings, the Senate Committee on Transport and Communications. And my guest is going to be making presentations before that Senate committee this morning. Gábor Lukács is an air passenger rights advocate. He's been on our program many times before, and ahead of his testimony, good to welcome you back. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning, Heather.
When the government went ahead with this airline Bill of Rights, as we call it, the Bill of Rights for passengers, the idea, of course, Gábor, was to make it better, make things better for passengers. You actually believe it's going to make things worse. What is your main concern?
What the government billed as an air passenger Bill of Rights will actually make things worse for Canadians. First of all, it is going to double the amount of time passengers can be kept on an aircraft without water, without food on the tarmac, from the current rule of 90 minutes to 3 hours.
So let me jump in there. Now that, when you get the government side of things, they say that actually matches or exceeds international standards, and that there was no national standard. So putting in that time limit, they actually see as being a step of progress.
The Canadian standard has been for the past 10 years 90 minutes. This was a standard in the case of Air Transat, and Air Transat was fined for breaking that standard.
So that's point number one. The other point that I know that you don't care for, because you've made this as well before the House, is the fact that airlines will no longer have to pay compensation for flight disruptions due to maintenance issues. What's wrong with that?
Under international standards, airlines are liable for their own maintenance problems. If the aircraft breaks down, they have to compensate passengers. These are Canada's international obligations under the Montreal Convention. This has been the law in the European Union. So Canadians actually get something significantly worse than what exists in the European Union, and significantly worse than the international standards.
But do you want the Canadian airlines to feel pressured because they don't want to pay money out and maybe make hasty decisions regarding safety just to avoid compensation? I mean, don't you want that to be a non-issue for them?
In Europe, for the past 12 years, airlines had to pay compensation for maintenance issues. We have no evidence that it caused any safety issues, and to suggest that an airline would actually fly a broken aircraft to save a couple $1,000s is quite troubling. We have safety issues in Canadian airline industry, but they are not that bad.
So as you appear before the senators today, what is the key amendment to the legislation as it exists right now that you're going to be seeking?
I will be asking senators to replace the 3-hour tarmac delay rule with the current standard of 90-minute rule in the legislation. I will be asking senators to enshrine the principle that airlines are liable to compensate passengers for delays caused by their own maintenance issues. And I will be also asking senators to protect the right of public interest advocates to make public interest complaints, which the current proposed bill also seeks to bar and effectively silence public interest advocates.
Because only individuals can make complaints, not organizations such as the one that you represent under the framework of this new legislation. We'll be listening in important discussions before the senators today, and you'll be leading that today. Thank you for the time before you make your way over to Parliament Hill.